What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron. I know a lot of you guys out there have your home league drafts coming up either this weekend, next weekend, whenever it may be, and you guys are all drafting on like ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper. And what you can do on these sites is you can absolutely abuse the preloaded rankings and ADP. And the way you could do that is by using the ADP from Underdog Fantasy. So we're going to cross-reference the ADP from Underdog, which is the sharpest ADP in all of the land. It's real money drafts. Real money is on the line. Everybody is 18 plus, 21 plus. And it's not just some little kids in a mock draft lobby just taking kickers for fun or just passing time on long road trips. Like, I remember I used to be one of those kids. I remember times when we would go down to the Jersey Shore for like a 2-hour drive, and I would just be sitting in ESPN mock draft lobbies and like falling asleep by like round 8, and things would get wonky. And the ADP is just trash. It also like updates using the average since like January. So you have a lot of values and hidden players on there that I want to make sure you guys are hip to. As always, though, make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code RON. They will match your deposit up to $100 when you click the link that's in the description or pinned at the comment section down below. You can hop on there. And on top of these 10 players we're going to highlight today that are huge values by using Underdog ADP, you can just hop in a draft room and just get a feel in general for what a draft room should look like with real money on the line. And then you get into your home league and then you realize, oh, this player is going in like round 3 and he's here at the 5-6 turn. This is an easy smash. So with all that being said, if you enjoy, make sure down below, subscribe. Let's get into our 10 players that your league mates are overlooking in 2023. Let's go.
Yes, stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gon' let me.
Now, for every player, I went out and did this so you didn't have to, but we found the 10 biggest values on Underdog, or the 10 biggest values in your home league by using Underdog ADP. And what I did is I had Underdog ADP, Sleeper ADP, ESPN ADP, Yahoo ADP, and then the difference between all of them, and then the average difference. So on average, Chris Olave is going 11.2 picks past where he goes on Underdog. Now, Underdog is half PPR, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex. You're going to be a little bit more running back heavy in your home leagues, but even then, a lot of the times it's full PPR, it's half PPR. And Chris Olave in the 3rd round, right? So Sleeper, he's like an early 3rd, but ESPN late 3rd, Yahoo middle 3rd. That is a beautiful value for a second-year breakout wide receiver. Anywhere in the 3rd, to me, Chris Olave is an absolute smash. This is a second-year wide receiver for the Saints. Crushed reception perception in his rookie year last year. Almost an entirely green route tree here. 83rd percentile versus man, 73rd versus zone, 83rd versus press. This is, of course, reception perception created by Matt Harmon. He has a great website with all of that data out there. And then he was also 7th in yards per out run in the entire NFL as a rookie catching passes from Andy Dalton. And the exciting thing about him is what I always sort of held against Olave is I sort of always felt like he was this Tyler Lockett, low target share, high A fall down type receiver, right? He's not going to put the moves on like a Garrett Wilson and make everybody miss. But what he's going to do is he had a top 10 A last year around like 15 yards, and he had a 26.7% target share, which is like top 15 in the NFL. So when you're commanding that much volume and it's all downfield, you're inherently going to be efficient, because if you have that same volume on a 10-yard A instead of a 15-yard A, that's actually taking like a third of your efficiency away before the catch. And if you aren't a yak guy, then that's how you sort of get your like Jacoby Myers archetypes of like possession receivers that hover around the first down marker. Olave can get away with being a possession receiver because he's catching balls downfield. So I like this offense for him this year. I'm not all that scared away by Michael Thomas. He's been out here forever. I'm drafting him, but I don't think that a guy who hasn't really done a full season of good work in like 2 or 3 years isn't really a guy that we should be pushing down Olave for. Regardless, he's still a massive value. Now, another guy who's a massive value, and I think Olave is probably a massive value because he's like a younger player, you know. I imagine people aren't all that familiar with Chris Olave's game in a home league, and I would say Calvin Ridley is similar here, where he is a guy who goes at like the 2-3 turn in high stakes and Underdog, and home leagues still seem to not love him at all, where I guess they're just scared off of him being away from football for the last year and a half, and it makes sense, but my goodness, he's going at 38.9 on Sleeper. That's a 14-pick value. He's like he's a 301 on Underdog. You can get him in the 4th on Sleeper. You can get him, I believe that's going to be on the 4th on ESPN. I think I'm reading these wrong, but there's a 4th on Yahoo, and I think that's actually a 5th on ESPN. So you can get him like the 4th, 5th round in these home leagues just from where he's preloaded there. Like, this is taking their ADPs as well. Now, of course, Ridley is a risk, right? He missed all that time, but you're getting a massive value here compared to where he's going in sharper leagues. I see him go in the third round in all of our high stakes and all of our underdog drafts. So if he's there in the fourth or fifth in a home league, you have to take him. This is the number one wide receiver attached to Trevor Lawrence. He was already getting the number one wide receiver snaps over Christian Kirk in preseason, and this should be a high-scoring, high-pass volume offense, and you want pieces of that. And we even have just sort of some numbers from last year in reception perception, or the last time that we saw Calvin Ridley play football, and he was still pretty good. 87th percentile versus man, 76th percentile versus zone, and pretty much what Matt Harmon says in this blurb is that Ridley was really good the last time we saw him play. It wasn't amazing. He wasn't efficient, but he was still very good. He's also very good at beating double teams, which is very interesting. He had a 90.5% success rate against double coverage in 2020 and was doubled on a high percentage of his routes in 2021. Now, he was also the wide receiver 4 in expected points per game in 2021 at 17.2 expected points per game. So he draws a lot of value, or a lot of volume, and he seems like a guy that could have one of these late career Stephon Diggs type 20-plus point per game seasons. Now, after that, we have Jerry Jeudy here, our third biggest value in home leagues. And I think this is where I thought Jeudy was going to be after what happened last season. He was a fine pick. He kind of turned it up down the stretch, but I imagine if you asked most casual fantasy football players, they would tell you Jerry Jeudy sucked last year. And he was actually really good down the stretch. He's an early fourth rounder on underdog, but you can get him at the 5-6 turn in home leagues, right? We're on Sleeper, he's going in the 5th round, ESPN 5th round, Yahoo in the 6th round. So just a really nice wide receiver you can grab. And despite the Broncos being an absolute disaster last year, if we take just the games where Jerry Jeudy played 60% or more of the snaps, he was the wide receiver 12 in points per game with 17.1. And if you only factor in down the stretch when they sort of got things to work in this offense, he was the wide receiver 3 in points per game at 20.1 points per game from weeks 14 through 18. And he ended up as the wide receiver 19 overall. He was a top 24 guy last year. You drafted him to be a top 24 guy. The offense should be better. Sean Payton is here. 5th, 6th round Jerry Jeudy. I'd be licking my chops for that value. I can't believe that he even goes that far on Sleeper. We're talking a round and a half of value across the board here. Now, next up, we have Christian Watson, who I think you're going to get a huge discount on. I think it's a lot of these young guys, especially Christian Watson. He had a weird rookie year with spurts of being good, but then spurts of not being great. And then he also now goes from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. And the discount is crazy. You're getting a 2-round discount. He's a 4th round pick on Underdog. He's a 5th rounder on Sleeper, 5th rounder on ESPN, and a 7th rounder on Yahoo. And he reminds me a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was a monster down the stretch. And if you just look at games where he actually played, this was a guy who had a lot of early exits last year from bumps and bruises. And last year, in games where he played over 60% of the snaps, he was the wide receiver 8 between Keenan Allen and Amon-Ra St. Brown, a 7-game sample of 18.6 points per game. He was an absolute monster. This is as a rookie. He was the wide receiver 12 in targets per out run last year, the wide receiver 13 in yards per out run, and that's all while being a rookie. He's a guy has big playability that I just kind of want to bet on in year 2 to take that next step. Now, again, young guys, this is the theme of today's video. Young guys are going to be a value. Jackson Smith-Njigba, crazy value. 5th rounder on Underdog. You're getting him, what's that? I don't even know. I think that's the 7th round on Sleeper. I'll pick hundreds on Yahoo and ESPN. And this is a really, really strong prospect. We talked about him a ton in Dynasty, but if we just look at 2021, what he did at Ohio State, I think people got to chill out with he outproduced Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. But in the 11 games they played together in 2021, he at the very least hung in there, right? He went blow for blow with Garrett Wilson, with Chris Olave, looked the part, doesn't play his 3rd year really outside of being hurt and getting on the field 1 or 2 times, and he still gets drafted in the 1st round of the NFL draft. Now, I know he comes into a spot where he's going to be wide receiver 3 on the depth chart, and that's tough for people to stomach, where he's going to be behind Lockett and Metcalf. But we have to understand 3 wide receiver sets are very common in the NFL. And the Seahawks haven't used 3 wide receiver sets in the past because they've had bad 3rd wide receivers. They've had Marquise Goodwin and David Moore and Dwayne Eskridge. And God, there's that one guy in Miami that they even had that was not even good at all. But now they have JSN. It should be a good offense. You have Geno Smith there. They passed the ball a decent amount last year. They scored a ton. There's going to be efficiency. You draft Jack Smith-Njigba with the idea that towards the end of the season he can really come into his own. We see all the time these rookie wide receivers, they emerge late. Even in crowded wide receiver rooms, it's not It's just worth betting on the talent when it comes to these young guys. And same thing with Quentin Johnston here. It's literally the same thing. He's going to be in a good offense attached to Justin Herbert. They're going to pass the ball a ton. He's going to be the third option behind Mike Williams and Keenan Allen in terms of wide receivers, and that's fine. Him and Mike Williams will be on the outside. You'll have Keenan Allen in the slot, and Quentin Johnston is a really special type of talent. Now, you're getting him at a crazy value. He is a 7th rounder on Underdog, and he goes anywhere from pick 96 to 136 on ESPN, an average of 39 picks of value in these home leagues. And QJ has crazy year one upside, where he's going to be, again, in a really strong offense, and his profile is a unicorn. Like, he is very weird, and that breeds efficiency in terms of, we talked about it with Olave, but you can have either ADOT or yards after the catch. Either way, you're going to get efficiency. Quentin Johnston is one of the rare guys that have both. Like, you can see here, ADOT to missed tackles forced rate has a negative correlation there, right? So, like, the further you are downfield, the lower your yak is going to be. Quentin Johnston is an absolute anomaly. He catches balls downfield, and then he also makes people miss, and he's crazy with his yak. Like, he's, again, usually you see one or the other. You either see a Debo who operates near the line of scrimmage and does a lot after the catch, or you have an Olave who's down the field and then falls down afterwards. Quentin Johnston takes both of that together, and that's what gives him like a crazy, crazy efficiency ceiling. There's going to be a lot of volume in this offense. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen also aren't the healthiest dudes in the world, so there's a chance that by the end of the year, he's out there in 2 wide receiver sets and is a league winner. Our 7th wide receiver, or 7th player, a lot of these are wide receivers. I promise we're going to get to some non-wide receivers here in a second, but it really is these wide receivers that are near the dead zone that are just massive values. And Rashad Bateman's another one. You're getting it on average 47 picks of value across the board. He's like undrafted on ESPN. Sleeper, he's even 40 picks past where he goes on Underdog at pick 97.9. Now, I guess it's like injury pessimism here, but he's been activated off of the PUP. Could have this huge year 3 breakout. He's going to be in this new pass-heavy offense that the Ravens have this year. We should be excited about what this team's going to look like with Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator. They're going to throw more. This is the most sort of pass-happy, high-tempo offense that there's ever been in Baltimore under Lamar Jackson, and the entire team could smash. I love betting on Rashad Bateman, super cheap here, as a guy who, on a per-round basis last year, was pretty good. He was 12th in yards per out run, and he was 18th in targets per out run. Now, he didn't play a ton, but in the games he played, he was fine. Now, moving on to some non-wide receivers here for you guys, we have Anthony Richardson. He's not a huge value on Sleeper. He goes like about where he goes on Underdog, 101.9, 103.2. But ESPN and Yahoo, he is the perfect late-round QB if you miss out on Mahomes all the way through like Trevor Lawrence. Once you start getting to like the Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, I like the idea of just waiting for Anthony Richardson in the double-digit rounds in these home leagues, because rushing is a cheat code, and Anthony Richardson did a ton of that in college. He's massive. He runs like a 4.4, 244 pounds, something like that. And that's been a cheat code for rookie quarterbacks, where since 2000, rookie quarterbacks with over 85 rush attempts have all had 17 or more PPR points per game. Now, of course, Lamar Jackson is at 9.84, but that's because he only started 7 of those games. He played in a full 16, so you can kind of wipe away Lamar Jackson. And the reason to be excited about Anthony Richardson is because he's going to run the ball a lot. He's going to fall more in that Cam Newton, Robert Griffin III of like 120 attempts. Mike Clay has him at 118 through like 15 or 14 games, so he should be flirting with that 120-plus number. And if he gets there, 20-plus points per game for Anthony Richardson wouldn't be all that wild, just given Steichen's history with Jalen Hurts and using the butt-push QB sneak. He could score a ton of touchdowns, be the focal point of this offense, and really smash for fantasy. Now, we also have a rookie quarterback. I think a lot of these rookies are going to be the biggest values here, where we have Tank Bixby, who you can get at pick 125 on Underdog, and you can get an average value of 28 picks across the board. Sleeper, he's going like undrafted. ESPN, like undrafted. Yahoo, a little bit hipper to Tank Bixby, but he's a guy I want to bet on, where I like ETN. ETN is a guy that I'm also drafting, but both of these guys are talented running backs in a good offense with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, and I just want pieces of those offenses. Tank Bixby was a good prospect, 6 foot, 210 pounds, good size, 4.5 speed, 94th percentile college target share. He can catch passes. He's a little bit bigger, like a little bit thicker, runs a little bit harder than a guy like Travis Etienne. So he's drawing live for goal line and receiving work right away, which is really interesting. And then if Etienne was to ever go down, Tank Bixby would be like a top 15 back pretty much right away. Now, our 10th player here is going to be Jalen Warren. And I guess he just isn't really known. But yeah, he has a pick 131 on Underdog. He's going pretty much undrafted on ESPN and Sleeper. And Yahoo is actually on top of Jalen Warren. So respect to Yahoo, but Jalen Warren has a lot of juice. He reminds me kind of like Tony Pollard before Zeke truly fell off, if that makes sense, as one of these backs, like an Eckler next to Melvin Gordon. Warren is really good from what we've seen of him, at least. Now, this is a little bit of a complicated table here, but last year, Jalen Warren had a positive EPA per rush of 0.11. Najee Harris was at minus 0.1. EPA is just going to be expected points added, so what are you contributing to your team? Warren was contributing more to earning first downs and making big plays, and then rushing yards over expected. So given what is blocked on a given play, how much are you going over or under what's expected of you? He was going 0.76 over, while Najee was at minus 0.49. Now, also, Warren has a lot of juice. He was 12th in explosive run percentage last year. He's a good receiver as well. He was 20th in yards per out run and had the 4th highest PFF receiving grade among running backs. Now, I'm not saying he's going to overtake Najee, but I think what was once a Najee 80% opportunity share is going to come down to more of like a 65-35 split. And Warren will be a guy that gets some PPR weeks. And then also, if Najee Harris was to ever go down, you'd have that James Conner effect of just an instant top 12 running back in fantasy. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a bonus. I know the title says 10 players. Let's also talk about Marvin Mims. He's free across the board, but he's a rookie wide receiver, second-round pick, 4.3 speed, 5'11", 183 pounds. Looks like Tyler Lockett, looks like T.Y. Hilton, and now he's going to be with Russell Wilson in this new offense with Sean Payton. We love betting on rookie wide receivers. Marvin Mims, a guy who I imagine is going to go undrafted in a lot of home leagues. Make sure you take him when he's there. Now, that is going to do it for us today. As always, these are the 10 or 11 that stood out to me, but I think it's really important to just get a ton of practice. Hop on Underdog Fantasy, hop in a bunch of draft from different positions, get a feel for what the room is like, and then from there you can kind of get a feel for where players are going, right? Like a player I didn't even mention is a guy like Breece Hall, who's like a 4th-round pick on Underdog. He might be a guy who scares a lot of guys in home leagues, and he's like a 5th, 6th-round pick in a home league. You can just get a feel for Underdog draft rooms. You take it to your home league, and you just get a feel for where players should go, and it just kind of makes your picks a little more obvious of, oh, this player shouldn't be available right now in the 6th round. I better go get him. So, of course, use promo code RON when you first sign up for Underdog Fantasy. I have a link in the description and the comment section down below. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, oh.